The sun hung low over the sprawling army base, casting long shadows over Humvees, training dummies, and rows of tents that flapped in the early evening wind. The heat still shimmered off the tarmac, but laughter echoed between the canvas walls like cold water being thrown across cracked pavement. It was family day. An open base event meant to feel warm, welcoming. But warmth had never meant much to Maya Rivers. She stood at the edge of the parade grounds, barely 10, a whisper of a girl in oversized boots and a hand-sewn camouflage outfit that clung awkwardly to her frame. The fabric was a mix of military surplus scraps, uneven stitches, and love stitched deep into every line. Her face was painted with smudged green and black stripes, not for fun, but for accuracy. She wasn't playing soldier. She was studying them. A cluster of soldiers nearby had noticed her. One of them pointed. "Hey, Sarge, check out the little warrior princess." Sergeant Daniels turned, squinting through his sunglasses, then barked out a laugh. Is she here to deploy or do face paint tutorials? The others joined in, light-hearted, sure, but sharp. Maya didn't flinch. She stood still. Her gaze locked not on them, but on the shooting range downfield. Her fingers tightened on the scope of the modified toy rifle strapped across her shoulder. It looked childish, but if you knew optics, you'd notice the real adjustments, the customized relief, the rebalanced grip. Nothing about it was ordinary. Her father, Corporal Elias Rivers, stood beside her in quiet resignation. He shifted uncomfortably, arms crossed over his worn fatigue jacket, a slight limp in his left leg he couldn't fully hide. He'd once been straight-backed and commanding, but the war had sanded him down to someone quieter. The scars beneath his collarbone still ached in cold weather. He glanced at Maya, then at the soldiers laughing. "You don't have to wear that," he said gently. Maya didn't answer. She didn't wear it for attention. Elias added, "That's her mother's pattern. She stitched it with her." Daniels, who'd overheard, raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to be a tribute?" Maya finally looked at him. Her eyes weren't angry, just steady, ancient, even. They didn't belong to a child. Daniel scoffed under his breath and walked away. "She shouldn't have to be here," Elias muttered, more to himself than anyone. "Not like this." But Maya was already walking away, across the gravel, toward the makeshift shooting gallery set up for the event. Air rifles for kids, pop-up targets painted like cartoon bandits. Her boots crunched the dirt with eerie purpose. Elias followed. "Sweetheart, Maya, come on." "It's just a game," he said, catching up. "I know," she replied flatly. Her voice always caught him off guard. Low, controlled, just like her mother's. At the firing booth, a young corporal was helping a boy her age adjust his plastic goggles. When he saw Maya step up, he smiled brightly. "You want to turn? You can pick a toy rifle." "I brought mine." She unclipped the rifle from her back. A few heads turned. The corporal blinked. "That's interesting." Maya laid it on the shooting bench. It clicked against the wood with the sound of metal and weight, not plastic. She adjusted the tripod herself. She didn't need instruction. A small crowd began to gather. Daniels reappeared, arms folded, watching. He leaned toward Elias. "What is this?" Elias exhaled. "She just wants to shoot." "With that?" "She built it." Daniels blinked, staring harder at the scope. Maya went prone, elbows down, cheek pressed to the makeshift cheek rest. Her breaths were even. She didn't blink. The painted targets danced in the breeze. 50 yards out, behind her, a dozen soldiers watched, amusement turning to curiosity. "You ever actually use that thing?" someone called. Maya ignored them. She clicked the sight, 3 notches to the left. Crosswind. The first shot cracked. The crowd jolted. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't a toy sound either. The metal duck target flung backward on impact. Gasps. Elias didn't react. He just stared. Maya adjusted again. Fired. Another hit. She fired a 3rd time. Then a 4th. 4 targets dropped in under 8 seconds. Daniels narrowed his eyes. "Those aren't air pellets. That's a .22 adapter." "What the hell?" "She's not supposed to shoot real rounds out here," someone murmured. "She didn't," Elias replied. "It's still a toy. She just knows where to aim. Daniel stepped forward. Hey, little miss. You practice a lot, huh? Maya sat up. I read manuals. He blinked. My mom was a sniper, she said, before she died. That made everything quiet. Elias stiffened. He hadn't wanted her to say it. Not like this. Maya stood, dusting her knees. Her eyes scanned the range, then the hills beyond, where real long-distance training targets stood dormant, untouched. The wind pulled softly at her stitched sleeve. Daniel shook his head. That's cute, but those are 500 yards up the ridge. Even trained guys miss half the time. She didn't look at him. I can try. Elias stepped forward. That's enough. Maya, come on. The crowd stirred again. The idea had already taken root. A little girl trying to hit a 500-yard dummy? Daniels laughed once, sharp. Fine. Let her. What's the harm? Maya met her father's eyes. Please. Elias froze. He saw her mother again. In the square shoulders, the fire behind the silence. He nodded slowly. Daniels gestured dramatically toward the ridge. All right, Sniper Princess. Show us what you got. She picked up her rifle, stepped off the marked course, and walked toward the higher line where real marksmen trained. No one stopped her. Elias followed, his steps heavy with memory. Daniels turned to the others. This should be good. But no one laughed this time. The ridge was quiet, eerily so, as Maya lay belly down in the flattened grass. The earth beneath her pressed cold and solid against her ribs, grounding her. A breeze danced through the trees, rustling branches just enough to whisper secrets. 50 yards behind her, a loose circle of soldiers and onlookers watched with bated breath. Conversations hushed to murmurs. The novelty had passed. Now they waited to see what this girl, this anomaly, would really do. She adjusted her homemade scope with practiced fingers. It wasn't guesswork. It was memory. A tin target, shaped like a human silhouette, stood alone at the end of a dirt path, painted in pale gray. It was tucked halfway up the hill, just under 500 yards. Most of the regular infantry didn't attempt shots past 300. The range was used by snipers for calibration, rarely by children in patchwork uniforms. Maya blinked slowly, her eye pressed tight against the sight. Her breathing slowed. One inhale. Hold. One exhale. Count to 4. Wind from the left. Light but shifting. She tasted it. Behind her, Sergeant Daniels shifted uncomfortably, arms folded tight over his chest. He couldn't read what was happening, and that unsettled him more than he admitted. The crowd had swelled. Some filmed with phones. Others just stared, caught in the surrealness of it all. A little girl with a modified toy rifle, acting like she belonged on a battlefield. Elias stood just outside the arc, hands trembling inside his pockets. His jaw was tight, eyes locked on Maya's prone body. He hadn't spoken a word since she'd stepped off the kids' course. He couldn't, because what he saw now wasn't play. It was grief with a trigger. He remembered nights with Alina, his wife, whispering wind calls beneath blankets, laughing about bullet drop charts like other couples laughed about movies. He remembered her teaching Maya how to find north without a compass, and how she'd said, not long before she deployed that last time, asterisk, if anything ever happens, promise me you'll let Maya find her own aim. Asterisk, he'd never understood what she meant. Until now, Maya's finger curled over the trigger. Lightly, not tense. A single shot cracked through the stillness. Silence. Seconds ticked by. Then, the target jolted. A puff of dust kicked from its lower shoulder. Not center mass, but a hit. At that distance, most trainees would have missed entirely. The crowd stirred. Daniels raised an eyebrow. Beginner's luck. She adjusted again. 2 clicks left. Fractional elevation up. Second shot. Clang. Direct hit to the chest plate. The crowd exhaled as one. Someone clapped, then stopped, unsure if it was allowed. Elias stepped forward. His voice caught in his throat. Daniels walked toward the girl, slowly. You said your mom was a sniper? Maya didn't move her eye from the scope. Captain Alina Rivers. 32nd Recon. Afghanistan, Kandahar, 2 years ago. Daniels stopped short. That name stung. He remembered it now. Brief overlap during a rescue operation. Pinned under fire. He'd survived because someone had laid down perfect suppressive shots across 300 yards of open sand. That was your mom? Maya fired again. Clang. The smallest gong at the end of the range spun wildly. 3 for 3. She taught me? Daniel said nothing. There was a weight pressing down on his chest. Something between regret and shame. He'd laughed at her, dismissed her, and now he felt like he'd just been saluted by a ghost. Lieutenant Henley approached from the side, clipboard tucked under his arm. How's she doing? Daniels looked at him sideways. She's not just doing. Hell, she's reading the wind better than half our guys. Henley raised an impressed brow. She legal to enlist? Daniels cracked a smile, finally, but it faded. His eyes returned to Maya, still frozen in the prone position. Want to make it interesting? Henley asked, voice low. Daniels nodded toward the distant ridge. You thinking the long plate? Henley grinned. 700. Let's see if it's instinct or miracle. Daniels hesitated. He turned back toward Elias, whose eyes were sharp now. Tense. She doesn't need to prove anything, Elias said, stepping forward. Maya finally lifted her head. I can try. Elias looked down at her. It's not about them. Or Mom. You don't have to be what she was. Maya met his eyes for the first time in minutes. I'm not. I'm me. He stared at her. So small. So young. And yet not a child. Not anymore. Daniel sighed. One shot. No adjustments. Wind shifting uphill. Let's see what she's got. The 700-yard steel plate had a dent in the middle from a sergeant's qualifying shot earlier that week. It was smaller than a man's torso, elevated on a metal rod. Swaying gently, Maya repositioned. Her breaths came slower now, almost imperceptible. The crowd leaned in. She counted the seconds between gusts, measured the horizon with her scope reticle. The sun had dropped just low enough to reflect off a sliver of brass casing near the target. She used that for distance confirmation. One inhale, one thought, make it matter. She squeezed. Crack. A pause. Then, asterisk gong. Asterisk. The sharp, satisfying ring sliced through the silence. The bass erupted. Some clapped. Others laughed in disbelief. A few stood stunned, their mouths open. Maya sat up slowly, not smiling, just breathing. Elias stepped beside her. For once, he didn't speak. Daniels exhaled a slow whistle. I'll be damned. Henley nodded. That's not instinct. That's training. Daniels took a few steps forward, kneeling beside Maya. He didn't look down on her this time. I served with your mom, he said softly. Didn't know she had a kid, let alone one like this. Maya turned to him. She used to say, sometimes the smallest things hold the deadliest truths. Daniels looked away, jaw tight. Elias placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. You done showing off? Maya finally smiled. No, not yet. Rain fell softly against the tin roof of the base barracks that night, tapping like distant footsteps from a memory no one could quite name. Inside a dimly lit room filled with old photographs and fading commendation plaques, Elias sat hunched on the edge of his cot, elbows on his knees, hands wrapped tightly around a folded piece of cloth. Maya's camouflage shirt, her mother's pattern, her stitching, her ghost stitched into every thread. Across the room, Maya cleaned the scope of her rifle with a white cloth, quiet and methodical. The day's praise hadn't changed her. No gloating, no grinning. Just the same stillness that had haunted Elias since Alina died. You know, he said finally, voice low, your mom used a whistle before every shot. Drove the other snipers nuts. Said it calmed her hands. Maya didn't look up. She whistled to cover her breathing. Kept the rhythm. Elias smiled faintly. So she told you that too. She told me everything. Outside, voices drifted from the mess hall. Soldiers talking about the kid like she was some new myth. But in here, silence reigned, thick with the weight of things unspoken. Elias unfolded the shirt slowly, staring down at the faded name tag. Rivers. The blood stain near the shoulder hadn't washed out. even after 2 years. I didn't want this for you, he murmured. Not the military, not the weapons, not the weight. Maya looked at him. You think I'm trying to be her? He hesitated. Aren't you? No, she said softly. I'm trying to remember her. The words struck deeper than any bullet. Elias nodded, eyes wet, but he blinked it away before she noticed. A knock at the door interrupted the stillness. Sergeant Daniel stepped in, hat in hand, face unreadable. Sorry to bother, he said. Can I borrow Maya for a minute? Elias looked from the sergeant to his daughter. Maya stood without hesitation. Outside, the rain had picked up. Puddles dotted the gravel paths as Daniels led Maya to the base's memorial courtyard. A single oak tree stood in the center, its leaves rattling in the wind. Beneath it, a row of metal plates shimmered under lamplight, names of fallen soldiers etched into steel. Among them, Captain Alina Rivers. Maya stared at the plaque, lips pressed together. Daniels pulled something from his pocket. A silver sniper badge, scratched but polished. He knelt beside the plaque and placed it gently on the grass. I never said thank you, he murmured. She saved my unit in Iraq. Her shots gave us a window. I never saw her face, but I knew her name. When I heard it again today, he trailed off. Maya said nothing. She just stared at the badge, then at the tree above it. Daniel stood. What you did today, it wasn't luck. You got instincts, discipline, and something most people spend years chasing and never find. I had a good teacher. He chuckled. You got that right. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It felt earned. Daniels looked at her, then stepped closer. I want you to come back tomorrow. We're setting up a precision test. I'll pair you with our top shooters. No tricks. No kid gloves. You'll shoot like any soldier. Maya looked up at him. Why? Because I want to know if today was the beginning or the peak. She nodded slowly. Okay. Back inside the barracks, Elias watched them return to the window. He hadn't moved from the cot. When Maya stepped in, her boots left wet prints on the concrete. Did he give you a medal? Elias asked, teasing lightly. She shook her head. Just a chance. He nodded. You gonna take it? I think I have to. He sat back, running a hand through his thinning hair. You remember what I told you about the scope? Never trust a dirty lens, she replied. He smiled. And your eye sees more than the glass ever will. He stood and crossed the room, kneeling in front of her. He held out the cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside was Alina's field notebook, weathered, water-damaged, but still legible. Her handwriting scrawled between range calculations and scribbled diagrams. Maya took it like a sacred text, turning the pages slowly. There's a page in there, Elias said, where she talks about you, before you were even walking. Says she saw you line up spoons on the table like sight markers. Said she knew then you had the eye. Maya found it. Her mother's handwriting. Asterisk, she won't need my hands. Just my calm. Asterisk. For the first time, Maya's composure cracked. Her lower lip trembled. Just once. Then she closed the book and looked up. Dad, I'm scared. He swallowed hard. Me too. She sat beside him, leaning into his side. You're not becoming her, Elias whispered. You're carrying her. A quiet knock came again, this time softer. Lieutenant Henley poked his head in. Sorry, we need both of you. Elias frowned. Both? Henley nodded. There's been an incident at the range. We found something, looks like sabotage. Someone's been adjusting the targets, making them swing harder. Could have thrown off Maya's shot. Was it Daniels? Elias asked, instantly tense. Henley shook his head. Daniels is the one who caught it. Maya stood. Henley looked at her, serious now. I think someone didn't want you to hit that plate. And tomorrow it might get worse. Maya's hand tightened on her mother's journal. Elias stood too. Then we'll be ready. Henley gave a short nod. Range opens at dawn. As they left the barracks into the thickening rain, Maya turned her face upward, letting the drops wash her cheeks. She didn't flinch, didn't speak. She was breathing through the fear, just like her mother taught. The sun cracked over the horizon in a thin blade of fire, cutting through the haze like a sniper's line of sight. The air was sharp with morning chill, dew clinging to the grass, each blade trembling under boots and breath. Soldiers gathered in silence around the upper ridge range. No chatter, no laughter. Word had spread. Today wasn't just another drill. Today, the little girl with a homemade scope was returning to shoot beside the best. Maya stood at the edge of the gravel line, her boots soaked from the march uphill, her hands steady as ever. She wore a base-issued vest over her stitched camouflage shirt. The mismatched cloth peeked out like a secret. Around her, for elite marksmen prepared their stations, grown men with custom rifles, wind meters, laser rangers, and digital tablets. She carried only her rifle, the one she built, the one they mocked. Elias stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight. His uniform looked newer today, pressed clean, but the scar under his collar still twitched in the cold. He hadn't said much on the way up, only handed her the field notebook again, now sealed in a waterproof sleeve. "You remember the page?" he'd asked. Maya had nodded. Daniel stood a few yards off, clipboard under one arm. He scanned the wind flags, eyeing every angle. He wasn't smiling. He looked like a man watching something sacred take shape. Lieutenant Henley stepped forward, raising his voice just enough. "Today's trial is precision over pressure. You'll each take 5 shots, 500, 600, and 700 yards. Conditions change with each round. We test your judgment, not just your aim." The marksmen barely blinked. They were used to pressure. Maya took a position last, prone beside soldiers who'd survived war zones. No one offered her help. No one offered doubt either. Not anymore. The first target rose at 500 yards. Wind, for knots left or right. The others fired first. Tight groups, clean hits. Maya adjusted her elevation. Her breath was invisible in the cold. She remembered her mother's voice again. Asterisk, see with your breath. Feel with your spine. Asterisk. She fired. The gong sang. A perfect hit, dead center. Henley didn't flinch, but he noted it with a quick mark. The second round began. 600 yards. The flags whipped harder. Crosswind. One soldier missed wide. Maya waited. Eyes scanned the flutter of grass. She remembered how Alina had taught her to read leaves like pages of a moving book. She made 2 subtle clicks. Exhaled. Fired. Another hit. Clean. Measured. Gasps came now not from doubt, but awe. Daniels watched, his heart a strange mix of pride and guilt. The way she lay on the ground, absorbed into the earth, was identical to the woman who once saved his life. Alina's daughter didn't just aim with skill. She disappeared into her shot, like her mother had. Then came the final test. 700 yards. Gusts flared. Dust kicked sideways. The target was partially shaded, swinging gently from a previous round. One of the elite marksmen hesitated. "Miss Lowe." Henley turned. "Ready, Maya?" She didn't nod, didn't speak. She adjusted, waited. A hawk cried in the sky above, slicing through the silence like a warning. She fired. The target froze. Then, Astor's clang star. Dead center. Again, Daniels closed his eyes. Unreal. Henley stepped forward, hand raised. 3 for 3. Perfect run. Under full crosswind. No applause. Just stunned stillness. Then one soldier clapped. Then another, until the ridge echoed with the sound. Maya didn't stand. She only lowered her rifle and stared at the dirt for a moment, grounding herself again. Elias came forward, crouching beside her. "You all right?" "I'm not like her," she whispered. He frowned. "No one said you were. I'm something else. I think I'm okay with that now." He nodded, trying not to show his tears. "Yeah, I think she would have been too." Daniels approached, offering something in his hand. A polished brass pin. The sniper emblem, cross rifles, and an eagle. "She earned this," he said. Elias looked at it, then at Maya. "You sure?" Elias asked. Daniels nodded. "If I could pin it to her soul, I would." Maya stood and took it, quiet as always. Behind them, a group of soldiers waited. some with cameras, others with nothing but silent respect in their eyes. Henley raised his voice. "One final question, Maya. Why did you come back today?" She looked at them all. Her voice, small but sharp, sliced through the wind. "Because someone tried to cheat yesterday. But truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to land." Daniels grinned. "Guess it did." Later, after the range emptied and the mist started rolling in from a valley, Maya sat beneath the oak tree in the memorial courtyard. Her mother's sniper badge was still nestled at the base. She added her own beside it, the brass pin gleaming. "Just borrowing it," she said quietly. Elias stood behind her, hands in his pockets. "You're ready," he said. "For what?" He paused. "Whatever comes next." She didn't smile, just looked up at the sky where clouds gathered like breath held too long. In the distance, the flag on the pole snapped sharply in the wind. Maya stood, not taller, just truer,